Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Dateable, a show all about modern dating where we dig into the whys of why people do the things that they do. And a lot of times it's just getting to the root of people's motivation, right? Like
For
instead
sure.
of us trying to read each other's mind, we actually ask the question, why? Why are you doing this? Why do you think this way? And that's how we get our answers. This week has been an emotional roller coaster for me, Julie. I think this news about Chadwick Boseman has hit hard
Mm,
because I think a lot of it is one, I had no idea that he was battling cancer. I don't think
right.
people did. But he was also diagnosed when he was my age, 39. He appeared so healthy, he appeared so lively, that he was battling something so dark that nobody knew about.
I know. Well, it's just you just don't ever know what anyone is going through, which I think has been the other big moral of this whole podcast too, right? It's like beyond just the why. It's like you have to have a little forgiveness for people too, because you just
Mhm.
don't ever know someone's situation.
It breaks my heart that his wife was by his side when this happened, and made me think about, at the beginning of relationships and dating, all the games people play and all the like, oh, did he text me back and why does she do this? End of the day, none of these things
Nothing
matter.
matters. Exactly. Like if you're the first person or you're whatever, like who cares?
Who
I think
cares?
I've been actually been a bit more active on dating apps this week, which has been good. I think a couple of weeks ago I said I was ready to start to try to meet people again. And I actually have had the most luck on Tinder. I haven't activated Tinder in years, but I was like, you might as well see what's out there, right? And I've actually had some like pretty solid convos with people on Tinder. But the reason I'm bringing this up is one of those convos I felt like really good about. Like we
Mm,
like it just kept going back and forth. Like it got to the point that I was like, okay, I'm like getting distracted from work. Like I need to like cut this and
wow.
continue it another day. Like we were just going back and forth. So I gave him I was like, oh, if you want to like reach out via text, like here's my number, like try to like move it along outside of the app. So he like texted me immediately, and just so I had his number and all that. And then I think this was like Tuesday, and I hadn't really heard anything from him since. So I'm like, you know what? Like, fuck it. I'm just gonna like send him a message, see how his weekend's been or whatever. And then no reply. Which,
Fuck that.
it's one of those things. The reason I bring it up is because I know a lot of people on our Facebook group have things like this happen all the time. Like we see it all the time. This is part of modern dating. And I think what at the end of the day, it's how do you process it? How does it affect your mindset?
Mm,
And why I'm bringing it up too is I have no idea what's going on in this person's life. I talked to him for what? A couple hours, if even, it's like not, it wasn't even a couple hours. It was maybe like an hour max, right? It's like, you just don't know. And I can choose to take it offensively or I can choose to move on. Like in reality, this guy knows nothing about me either. So it's like, I don't know. It's all again about mindset when it comes to dating apps. I feel like you can be like, why did this person do this? And get like all burnt out about it, or you can just kind of let it go. And I think I'm
mhm.
sharing it too, is because it happens to all of us. Like all of us deal with this, like no matter who you are and what, like I think people always think that other people have it easier, but the reality is this happens everywhere. So it's again, how do you choose to process it? And I don't regret reaching out because it's like one of those things that it's like, I'm going to put it out there. And if they don't choose to, like, I'm not going to keep doing it now, right? It's like you did it once, didn't get the response you wanted. Now it's time to move on to someone that shares that response.
Yeah, you have to understand that it takes two to tango. And if you're trying to force someone else to dance with you, it'll never work out.
Yeah,
So instead of dwelling on the why me mentality, the victim mentality, you have to say, like, if I'm stepping forward and the other person doesn't take a step forward to meet me, then I have the choice to leave this dance. I
exactly.
don't need to be part of this.
Exactly, but it's also good to step forward. I think a lot of people don't step forward, and a lot of it's like, oh, the man should do that, or, I don't want to come off too overeager, whatever, like that is. And
Hmm.
I think at the end of the day, like tying it back to what you were saying, none of this shit matters. Of course, if there's not that reciprocity, then you should not continue to go down that path. I'm not saying that, but I think sometimes it does deserve to put your foot forward because so many people right now just aren't taking a chance. And that's not a great situation either.
It's kind of similar to our episode last week with the TikTok couple.
Yeah,
And we
exactly.
had that conversation on our Facebook group where people really admired these two for both taking a step forward, one step at a time, but also meeting each other where the other person wants them to be. And I think that takes a lot of courage these days, because it's that, like you always talk about, the relationship chicken is everyone's so afraid to take that step
Hmm.
forward. And therefore you get to a standstill. And what do you do at that point? You can't move forward. And I also experienced this in my own relationship. Even though I am in a committed monogamous relationship, there's still that hesitancy to step
Hmm.
forward for your partner, to show up for your partner, because you don't want to get your feelings hurt. There's pride that stands in the way. And in the last week that my boyfriend and I went away to celebrate our 2-year anniversary, it became like couples retreat for us, because we had to talk about some of the ways that we weren't showing up for each other. And it became so clear to me that my pride standing in the way of giving him all of me is also stopping him from
Oh, yeah.
committing farther to me. So it's a vicious cycle that we have to break out of. And I learned so much from this past week of just having the courage to go and step forward and to give it all you've got.
I think that's so important that you say that for a couple of reasons. And I want to hear all about the anniversary. I've been waiting to not ask you until we talked. But before I ask you the details, as much that you'll share, of course, but I think a couple things that you said I do want to kind of hit home is that it doesn't stop in early stage dating. And
No.
we actually have an amazing episode this week all about just the dating behavior that holds you back.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things that we have two guests there from 51 First Dates, another podcast that we've also been on. And it started as a dating experiment. And it really was all about how to understand one of the hosts, Kimmy, her dating behavior. And her friend Liza, she is actually in a committed relationship. And we asked her, why are you so interested in this stuff? And her response was, the same shit shows up, the same challenges that people have, whether you're in early stage dating or you're with a monogamous partner. The only difference is that you have to have difficult conversations with someone you had a one night stand with versus your
Mm.
partner.
Mhm.
It shifts the person. But if you don't do the inner work and learn how to communicate and do all that, then it doesn't just magically go away when you find a partner. So I wanted to say that, but the other thing I do want to say before we go into your weekend is I think something else to learn from the people from TikTok is that they did have a few snafus along the way. There was one time that the guy sent her his number and he ended up sending the wrong number.
Mm.
And then she also didn't respond and reach out because she was super busy. And they didn't let these little tiny things necessarily derail their entire relationship. Of course, if it's always happening, that's one thing. But if it's once or twice, we need to learn that people are just human.
Mhm.
Sometimes you get busy. I can kind of bitch about this guy doing this to me, but I could also recognize that I'm sure I've done this to 10 other guys, right? On the
Mhm.
other side. So if this guy does come back, maybe I wouldn't be totally unreceptive to him. Of course, if he continues to do stuff like that, that's a totally different situation. But now I want to hear
Mm.
about the lovely couple's anniversary. That's so exciting. 2 years. 2 years is crazy.
I think there are two major milestones in a new relationship. One's at 6 months and one's at 2 years. 6 months, you're just solidifying the relationship, building a
Mm-hmm.
foundation. And at 2 years is where real shit happens. That's
Oh,
when you're
yeah.
like, are we doing life together, or do we just have 2 years of the honeymoon together? And we definitely came to that this week. I think I had so many, I had I love to procrastinate. And there were so many conversations I wanted to have with him that I was saving for this week, which is the wrong way to do it. Because
Mm.
after a few drinks, it all comes out at once. And he's like, whoa, where did all this come from? I'm like, I've been saving it for a whole month.
Yeah.
But that's the problem with not continuing to to communicate with your partner on a regular basis, is that you build up and then you save it all for one time. So that was lesson number one. But I think the lesson number two I learned about myself was I am so guilty of CGS, cool girl syndrome. And that's something we talk about in this episode with Lizzie.
Yes.
And that's something we talk about in this episode with Kimmy and Liza, which is like that. Sometimes when you're so independent and the society tells you to be the cool girl, you end up sacrificing your own needs just to give off this portrayal of a cool girl. Like nothing matters. It's cool. I'm cool with everything. I'm so easygoing. And I think it's been really detrimental for me on a just mental health level, is that I've been just hiding all of these feelings or not letting them be known because I just want to give off the portrayal that I'm just really easygoing. I'm a cool girl. So I'm completely guilty of that. And this week we've definitely talked about what my needs are, what his needs are. And I'm just really happy to say that I'm more in love with him than I've ever been. This is the closest I've ever felt with someone. And I'm just very grateful to have him in my life. But it took a lot of conversations to get there.
That's the thing, though. It's like, I mean, we dive into this in the episode, is when you play the cool girl, it doesn't actually bring people closer. Like, it is these vulnerable, tough conversations when things, I mean, we've learned this from past experts we've talked to too. I remember Dr. Alexandra Solomon said it wonderfully. It's like conflict in a relationship is inevitable. Like if you don't have any conflict, it probably means that someone's just holding it in, or the relationship isn't deep enough to warrant conflict. Yeah. So I think it's really like when you are able to just have those difficult conversations, it's either, it's a win-win in either way. It brings you closer, like you were just saying, or it can make it really clear that you're on different pages. And that isn't a bad thing either. It's better to not be in denial and like thinking something is going a certain way if it's clearly not. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you felt closer. I think that's wonderful. I'm glad that you guys had those conversations. But yeah, this shit doesn't stop after you get the relationship. Like, the movie credits, like the way the movies work, the girl gets the guy gets the girl, guy gets the guy, whatever it is, and then it's over.
There.
No.
Yeah, definitely. It does not stop there, actually. It's like, people who want to have kids and then they have kids and then there's just a whole other bag of issues. It's like life never stops giving you conflict and problems.
Absolutely.
Nothing stops.
I actually feel like sometimes I have an easier time with dating because I can be a little more like hands off, that I don't care as much. Like the situation I was mentioning to you, of course, yeah, it's disappointing if someone that you thought could have progressed doesn't. I'm not saying it's not, but I don't know this person that well. So it's easy for me to be like, okay, I went on a couple dates with this person. It's not going in the way I thought it was. Like, okay, I'm moving on. I think for me, it's harder when I get very emotionally attached to someone. I think having deeper conversations like the ones you're talking about actually happens at that level. Like that's where the work that you've been doing all this time, that can't just stop after you found a relationship. Like that's when the work really has to happen.
So get this though. The universe works in very strange ways. So we went to Central Coast. Not many people go there, or at least that we know of. And we're in downtown San Luis Obispo, and we're about to get dinner. And we walk by this table, and I'm like, holy shit, this guy looks so familiar. Like why does he look so familiar from far away? And as we get closer, it is my fucking ex-boyfriend from years ago. Yes.
What?
Yes. With his wife and his brother. Okay.
Wait, someone I know or no?
So the guy I dated the very first guy I dated in San Francisco, but then I moved to San Francisco and we broke up.
Okay. I never met him, but I know who you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
I have not seen him since we broke up 4 years ago. And it was amicable, but also like I have not seen him, and we both live in San Francisco. What are the chances that we run into each other in downtown SLO? So I'm like telling my boyfriend, I'm like, this is really crazy. What a small world. That is my ex-boyfriend with his now wife and his brother, who I've met before too. And he's like, guess what, babe? I think we're going to sit right next to them. As the waiter is cleaning that table right next to them.
Oh my God. Like, this is like in a rom-com.
It is in a com. I wouldn't say it's a rom at all. And I just kept thinking, like, should I go over there? Should I say something? Isn't it weird if I just don't say something and I say to them? So of course, chances would be that we get seated right next to them, and I go up to them, and at this point, like, I have a mask on, okay, and I've not seen this guy in 4 years. So I go over and I'm like, hey, like, to him and his brother, and they both look at me like, who the fuck are you? Okay, but it gets even more awkward, Julie, because I have not been around people in a few months, except for my coworkers, that I forgot how to be social.
You've been with friends, but I guess you don't consider us. Yeah, we need to try.
No, I don't need to like be. I don't need to be like, hey guys, around my own friends. This is an ex-boyfriend I haven't seen in 4 years. In true awkward UA fashion, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. I'm wearing my mask, and I give him a hug.
Oh God!
What am I doing? I'm like,
he's probably like, get away from me because of COVID.
Too, So I'm like, oh, it's Yue. And he's like, oh, as I'm reaching out to hug him.
Oh my God, this is so uncomfortable. I feel like uncomfortable and I'm not even there.
And I can just see his wife being like, what the fuck is she doing? Who is she? And it finally clicks for him and his brother. They're like, oh Yue, great to see you. But why the fuck are you hugging us during COVID times? I don't understand. But then it gets even more awkward because we're having like small talk, whatever. And I'm like, that's my boyfriend right there. So I introduce him. And the ex and the brother, both go over and shake his hand.
Oh my God, this is so awkward. I'm like so uncomfortable just listening to it.
So this is so cringy just in hindsight, but I cannot imagine how much cringier it is for both my boyfriend and the wife.
Yeah, I'd be like, don't touch me. Like, I don't even want to touch my friends, yet alone my ex's new significant other. I definitely don't want to touch that person.
I am so guilty for starting this cringy train that I could no longer stop, and it just kept rolling. God. And I didn't know how to make this nightmare end. It was very, very awkward.
Oh, wow.
But it's fine. I mean, I don't have any ill will for him. Yeah. It was actually really great to see him. His wife is lovely. I've always liked his brother. It's just, what are the chances of running into them in downtown SLO in the middle of COVID?
I just can't believe he didn't recognize you. Like, that's I get that you were in a mask, but still, that's do you think he just didn't want to? He's like, I'm with my new wife or whatever, or new wife, but I'm with my wife. With my new wife, but you know what I mean. I just think I don't know. I feel like if you dated someone, wouldn't you remember them? Feels a little suspect to me.
Yeah. I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah.
The whole thing was just a little unexpected. Also, it was out of context. If it was in San Francisco, maybe. But
yeah, I'm sure that was a piece. I actually ran into one of our past guests this weekend.
You did?
And yeah, I ran into one of our past guests, Margot. And she was with her new boyfriend. So for everyone that remembers Margot, we had a 2-part series with her. And the first part was about just trouble and unluck with men. And the second part was that she found love with a woman. So now, sometimes you got to go full circle to figure shit out. But he seemed like a very lovely guy. They seemed really happy. But I will admit it was a little awkward because at first I was, I didn't recognize her fully, and then I was like, oh, okay, yeah, and then it was kind of like, oh, meet my boyfriend after, and I was like, should I introduce the people I'm with? It was just it was a little awkward too, but all good. I mean, I'll share my awkwardness of this weekend also now that we're down this
down this path.
Yeah, actually, I feel like I saw a bunch of our people in our dateable orbit, which is kind of funny. So I hung out with Lauren Korshak, who was one of our past guests. That was Attachment Theories for everyone that remembers. And then one of our current guests of this season, Dr. Abigail Lev. who's coming up for
she's
schemas. So we have that in store for you all. So it was really fun. They're like the therapist crew that I got to hang out with. And we went for, it was like such a production this weekend because somehow the smoke actually got worse in SF.
Yes, I heard.
Like I don't understand because the fires were stopped. I think it's the wind patterns. Like it was actually fine in the week. And then this weekend, of course, magically it becomes intolerable. So pretty much like all of us, like I was like, my eyes were watering yesterday. It was so bad in my house. My doors were shut, all of that. The marina, for some reason, was the only green area. I think it's like anywhere near water. Mm-hmm. So we went to the marina. It was like totally fine there. It was very bizarre. I'm like, how is like, for anyone that doesn't live in SF, I don't live that far from there.
Yeah, microclimates.
It's like a couple miles. It's like crazy. And it was like totally pure and fine. But what embarrassing thing that happened to me, I feel like we're in our COVID wear all the time.
Yes.
And, you got to walk places. So I wore my leggings with like actually, I think I might have worn the sweater I'm wearing right now with leggings. And I was like, oh, this is a cute COVID outfit. It's like comfortable.
COVID outfit.
It's
COVID approved.
It's an outfit that goes from COVID home attire to nighttime. Like I can wear it to a restaurant, right? So yeah, because I feel like, okay, like, I don't know, for like wearing jeans or like a dress when you have to walk like 2 miles, like it's just not going to happen. So I'm wearing these new leggings I got, and I noticed that they like started to split in the middle, like
crotch area,
in the crotch.
Crotchless
and it was
leggings.
Like an hour, like luckily no one noticed because it didn't continue to spread, but I was like, this could have been really bad. Like this could have been bad. So I'm like, okay, note to self, maybe just like pure COVID attire might not be the right transition that you're thinking. So I don't know. I have some nice like jumpsuits that I might be wearing now as new attire, like something that won't rip. Maybe like the tightness of them walking or whatever it was. But yeah, I mean,
how did you notice they started ripping?
I went to the bathroom.
Oh, that's when you noticed?
Yeah, I went to the bathroom and I looked and there was a hole.
So if you didn't have to go to the bathroom, you would have never noticed?
I mean, no, but eventually I was going to go to the bathroom and thank God they just stopped ripping. Because like sometimes when things start to rip, it just goes downhill fast. Like I would have been totally fucked.
That's when you do the whole like sweater around the waist.
I was wearing just one sweater. I didn't have anything to put around the waist. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could have taken my jacket off. It was like freezing cold, and everyone's like, "Why are you wearing your jacket around your waist?"
Like a diaper. It's weird.
Don't bother me, It's like in the front instead of like on the back, so it doesn't even make sense. But yeah.
Oh.
Anyways, that was my embarrassing thing for tonight. So I guess the advice I'm putting out there is, especially if you're on a date, maybe don't wear the leggings that are so cozy in your own home.
I didn't know there were lessons to be learned in this. I thought it was just to commiserate.
My takeaway is I am not wearing these out again.
Or if you're trying to,
or I will have a backup.
Give off a different kind of message there. Like, oh, I didn't know these were crotchless leggings.
Exactly. It's a new COVID style.
Wow. Okay. So eventful week for both of us.
And then my other just like quick thing that I did too, that we're going to have we had her as a bonus episode, but I did a virtual makeover.
Oh,
with Kimmy Seltzer, and we have her coming up on this. So I feel like I had a lot of just dateable randomness happen in like a short period of time. It was like all in one day, and we have Kimmy Seltzer coming up in a couple weeks that talks about just like how to best present yourself. And I thought she had some really interesting things, and we are actually going to make it some video clips that we'll share with all of you. But she was like, wow, your hair is a lot longer than I thought. And I'm like, yep, I haven't gotten it cut in like,
I know. It's
so
like
this isn't my normal style, but
just
hair extensions
mane at this point. I know. I'm so glad I'm not a dude, because I think it's a lot worse for guys. Like for girls, we can just let our hair grow, but for guys, I don't know what's happening.
Hair salons are opening now, September 1st, outside.
Yeah, okay, outside, yes.
My person isn't doing it though, so I got to find a new person, but I'm going. Like I need to. This is out of
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just going to get my mom to cut my hair. A bowl cut for good old times. Shifting gears to would you
Yeah.
rather. Last week, we had a very controversial question, very controversial would you rather. So the question was, would you rather date someone whose political stance is apathetic, like they couldn't care less about politics, or someone who has very strong political beliefs, but they're opposite of yours? And I kind of knew where this would be headed in terms of polling. But I didn't realize how mad people would get at this question. Like they were mad at me for even posing it. Okay. That's how personally people took it. I'm like, guys, it's just a would you rather. It's not the real world.
The point is to be extreme. Everyone's like, we need an option in the middle. And it's like, no, that's the point. I get it. It's not ideal. No one's saying it's ideal.
That's the whole point of would you rather. It's not supposed to be ideal. If it were ideal, then you knew it'd be easier for you to pick which answer. So with that said, Julie, what would be your answer?
I actually flip-flopped on this one. I know, which is
you
kind of crazy.
Do.
I know, I think about it way too much. I really like to reason with these would you rathers. So I actually watched the RNC the first night, and I must say that it was the most comedic value I've received in a long ass time. And I'm sorry if I'm offending anyone that shares the values here, but I'm just going to say it. I won't go too much on it, but it was someone wrote it, like one of the news outlets wrote it up as like an SNL skit gone bad, like an actual SNL skit. And it was like, like Kimberly Garfoyle, or however you pronounce her name. She's Donald Trump Jr.'s or Donald Trump Jr.'s girlfriend. She was literally screaming her entire speech. It was just crazy town. So at first I was like, when I thought about this question, I'm like, oh my God, what if I was sitting next to someone that actually thought this was like legit? And I'm like, I don't think I could do that. And last shout out for anyone that wants really funny things, like definitely check out Trevor Noah's videos on there, because they are like so gold. They're so good.
Yes.
But so that was one thought that went through my mind. But then the other side is like having someone that has just no opinions is bad too. And my aunt and uncle live in a divided household for politics. My aunt and uncle that you've met, who are both very educated, lovely people. But my uncle and cousins are all hardcore Democrats, and my aunt is hardcore Republican. And and I think it's like one of those things that, there's been times that they're like, we need to just stop having the conversation. Like, I remember they were actually visiting me at SF, and my uncle was like, this is Democrat city, like, stop, But I think it's one of those things. I was thinking about it, I'm like, they're very happy in every other way, and I very much respect my aunt intellectually and in every way possible.
Yep.
But the other side of it is they've been married for years. I think starting in where the political climate was not what it is today. I think like politics used to be more like, I don't know, it wasn't as front and center, I feel like. Like it wasn't something that people talked about in terms of dating and relationships. And it wasn't as tied to social issues. So after much debate, I went back to the side of, I think, having someone long-term that had totally polar opposite views would probably drive me insane. So I'm going to have to go with the, I'd rather have someone that doesn't have a strong opinion. I don't know how you can have a strong opinion right now, but maybe I could persuade them in some way.
Got it. Okay.
What would you do?
This one was actually a little easier for me, just because I think I have a lot of family members who have opposing political views as me, and we get along just fine. It's just that we have more interesting discussions and conversations. And they never talk down to me, and I don't talk down to them. It's not a matter of like, I think I'm better or they think they're better. So I do think there is an opportunity for a couple to have healthier discussions if their political views aren't aligned. I also think it's a lot, it's more, the chances of someone changing their views are a lot higher than someone changing from apathy to caring. And I say this because I've experienced it in a previous relationship. Apathy is nowhere I want to touch. I don't want to be with someone who didn't care. And to be with someone who didn't care means, one, I think they have a lot of emotional barriers that they haven't worked through. And that's not my job to help them with that breakthrough, but that's like years of therapy that they need to do. And they're quite numb in that way.
Yeah.
And if I can't have healthy conversations because they don't care, then there's no point in moving forward with a relationship. So that's why I'd rather be with someone who has opposite views, where we can have healthy discussions, than someone who just didn't give a shit.
You know what's so interesting is because I feel like I used to be more apathetic about politics. And over the years, I've definitely gotten a lot more invested in it and interested in it, and definitely have a strong view. So I do think it's possible to change, but then also at the same time, in the current climate is different than a past climate. So if you don't have a view in the current climate, I can see what you're saying of, will you ever have a view if you don't have one now?
Yeah, that's a very good point. And I think maybe choosing either one of these options is kind of the same, because you can't predict the future. People will always change, and you never know what they'll feel 5 years down the line. But I think it's just more about how you think you can approach someone who does have either no views or different views, and how you can have a healthier discussion with them. So the result of this is it was okay. So on Instagram, when we did the poll, it was 75% apathy and 25% opposite views. But on our Facebook page, I believe it was 99% apathy and 1%
People were really upset on the Facebook page. I
also understand why, because when you vote on Facebook, it shows your name. Right? So if everyone's voting the other way, it's a little harder to put your name out there to vote for the unpopular.
I agree. I think maybe I think the Instagram might be a more accurate quant metric, but I think Facebook is good because you get to see the qual of why.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It was a really good discussion. I'm sorry if people got really mad about it. I mean, literally people were like, fuck you for this question. Like, hey guys, that's not the whole point. We're just trying to have discussion here.
I think it's a good question. I actually thought it was a good question because it's testing extremes. That's the point of a would you rather, is to test extremes. So.
Yeah. Perfect. That was exactly what it was supposed to be.
We are sorry though if we offended anyone. Obviously the ideal is neither of these. We're not saying it is. So yeah.
But if you'd like to be part of this discussion on Facebook, because every week we have really interesting discussions in our Facebook group, join our group. It's called Love in the Time of Corona by the DATEABLE podcast. We have I think we have some of the most interesting and insightful discussions I've seen, especially this week. We had a discussion about dating when you're dating with grief. You know, this posted that she lost her father recently, but she's also trying to date. That was a really fascinating discussion. And it's just, I think it's like a very healthy environment for people just to talk things out.
With men and women. We always, there's very few communities that you get both perspectives in all ages, all nationalities, all ethnicities. Like, we've got it covered, all life stages, all ages. It's a diverse group for sure.
And it's fantastic. And another way to connect with us is through our Instagram page. We post all the time, but we also want to solicit your opinions and stories. We talk back and forth quite a bit. If you slide into our DMs, we're not shy about that at all. So that's also a great way to connect with us. And if you just love us in general, ratings are always very helpful. We'll say this every week, but if you can give us 5 stars on the Apple Podcast Store. Is that what it is? Like a podcast store? I don't even know. You're not shopping for podcasts.
I don't know if it used to be the iTunes store. Now it's Apple Podcasts. They went through a rebrand.
Oh, that's what it is. That's why it's so confusing. But 5 stars. It's still 5 stars. Give us a review. We really appreciate it. It really helps with our rankings and also like the quality of guests we're able to bring on the show.
Yes. Thank you for everyone that did that already. It's so helpful.
Yeah. And a 4th way to connect with us is YouTube. Yay! It's really interesting that we read somewhere that a lot of people do consume podcasts through YouTube. So we kind of revamped our YouTube channel. We kind of like, it was kind of like the middle child for a while. We just didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
But now we've rebranded it. We have merged it with my old YouTube channel. So this is more an announcement for anybody who's on our Dateable Podcast YouTube channel. We're shutting down that channel and we're going to migrate everything over to another channel called Dateable. It's just called Dateable. And you'll see a lot more subscribers there. We're already pushing content over there. So you'll have about like 2 weeks from today to get yourself resubscribed over there. We'll stop posting here already. So that's just another migration, exciting migration.
Yeah, definitely check it out. I love these little chat videos that are going up. So a lot of good stuff that's happening there.
And another excuse for us to like actually brush our hair and put on makeup during the time.
Another excuse to republish the decorator video also for anyone that is new and has not seen that. It is a treat.
Our legendary video. Just wait for that.
Love it. So now to our episode. I feel like we've had so many things to talk about, but I'm really excited to release this episode this week. We alluded to it earlier, but we have Kimmy and Liza from 51 First Dates, and we hear all about their dating experiment, but more importantly, what are these like things that are holding you back from, like having authentic relationships and really taking that next step, whatever stage you're at. So yeah, it's a good one for anyone, no matter where they are in terms of relationships and dating.
Here's our conversation with Kimmy and Liza from 51 First Dates.